Well, this one's exciting. Discord says that 70,000 users may have had their government-issued IDs compromised. The recent attack exposed them, and the hackers, well, they claim they've got nearly 2.2 million. Quite a bit more than what Discord claims. Now, this would be bad enough on its own, but it's also came at literally the worst possible time, because Discord is facing pressure from legal changes pretty much worldwide. Now, these changes have forced them to ask users to verify their identities. So here's the question. How can they keep asking people to do that when they've already failed to protect users once with this story? I don't envy their position. They're facing scrutiny from the public and from governments. And there's more to this story than meets the eye. And none of this looks good for Discord, the corporate entity that very much has been gearing to go public. If you want to, do your IPO, a massive wave of bad news is pretty much the worst thing. Now, given what we've covered today, I don't think you'll be surprised to find out that I use Incogni. They are both today's sponsor and the easiest way for you to fight back. You see, whenever data leaks, data brokers harvest it up and sell it on. Ever wonder how spam callers actually get your number? It's often that, and Incogni solves this problem by automating all of the legal paperwork you would otherwise have to do. And if you join at incogni.com/Bellular News, you get 60% off the annual plan. Now, here's how it works. You enter your information. That's it. It now works. It really feels like magic. You see, you've got a legal right to get your data taken down, but doing so means paperwork. That takes hours, and it's not permanent. It can just be slurped up again. Incogni automatically scans brokers, it sends takedown requests, and it adds you to suppression lists, all automatically, and they continually rescan to keep your data down. Just take a look at my dashboard. 214 sent, 1 in progress, 213 completed, and I'm on 26 suppression lists, which really does give me peace of mind. And over at incogni.com/Bellular News, you can get that peace of mind as well as 60% off an annual plan. So check them out today using my link. To kick us off, a lovely little thing, sarcasm, called the Online Safety Act launched this summer, and similar laws have risen up in Australia and dozens of US states. The EU has got legislation looming as well. And beyond questions of overreach or free speech risks, privacy concerns are what has dominated most. And the most immediate worry is this, that corporate bodies are verifying the IDs of entire populations. Advocates like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, have called out the potential risks here. They're fairly obvious risks, things like personal data that can be used for profiling, for identity theft, and things that are much worse. Now, that data has been put at risk. Quite simply, the more databases that data resides in, then the higher the chance of, risks and breaches. And now with Discord, those worries have been validated. Discord announced that hackers had gained access to user information, including government documents. And with that said, let's dive into the inciting incident. Discord announced the breach in a statement that hackers gained access to user information with a limited number of users. Specifically, it was users who had contacted Discord through customer support or through their trust and safety teams. And that little bit of info will be very relevant later on. And what the hackers got was Discord account information, limited purchase history, though thankfully not full card details or security codes. They got IP addresses, they got chat histories with agents. So hopefully none of you degens were engaging in a little bit of ERP with the support agents. And then, of course, yes, the most important thing, the government ID images. Now, Discord's statement on the IDs read as follows, quote, "The unauthorized party also gained access to a small number of government ID images, things like driver's licenses and passports. These came from users who had appealed an age determination. If your ID may have been accessed, that will be specified in an email you receive." So, this was Discord's starting point. It's very much not the end of the story, though, because the hackers then went and made their own claims. They provided proof of their identity to independent sources, and their number is a little bit higher, nearly 2.2 million photos of IDs being compromised, to a total of 1.5 terabytes of data. So this is a worst possible scenario. Mass user compromise and government ID documents. And for Discord, the worst possible scenario. Now, Discord immediately refuted this. They told The Verge that they've identified 70,000 users who may have had documents compromised, and all of them had been contacted. As for the 2.2 million number, well, they say that is simply part of a plan to extort them, to basically inflate the perception of damage. But regardless of numbers, here's, I think, what actually matters. How could this happen when Discord promised that their new legally compliant ID verification system was not storing photos? Because in the mind of most consumers, they heard your photo will not be stored. And now what do we see? Apparently 1.5 terabytes of your photos that had been stored. to explain this, we need to do some details. This seriously is important, so yeah, strap in, let's go. Now, Discord's trial for age verification in the UK and Australia works through service providers, basically third-party companies like KID or Veritat. Now, these companies maintain that all that they do, right, is they simply check information in a live scan, and then they give Discord a pass or a fail answer. So from Discord's point of view, all that they see is basically a checkbox that says yay or nay. So no things being stored in Discord's end. So you're almost certainly wondering, if that's true, then how could images of people's IDs even be accessed if, they're not stored? Well, taking these companies at their word, there is actually a clear answer, and I can pretty much tell you. So these hacks were not connected to age verification, at the very least, not in that way. You see, the hackers claimed that they breached an account related to Discord, and that from there, they gained access to a Zendesk instance. Worth noting, Zendesk have denied that they were hacked, which is a bit of a strange wrinkle in this story, but the way the story goes is that by getting this access, the hackers could get customer service data. Now, that data included support tickets, and those support tickets, those are where the majority of customer information was gathered, including the IDs. And that would mean that this hack is actually about Discord's policy on IDs that exist before the law changed. So this is where it's interesting, and here's how things used to work. So to take it from the top, Discord hosts servers where individuals may share adult content. Nothing like a cheeky fap with the boys. Now, they have policies to manage this fact, where they can flag an account as being an adult account or a child account. Children obviously get restricted from adult-only spaces. But what happens if somebody falsely flags another user as being a child, or someone simply enters the date of birth wrong when they're signing up? The answer is fairly simple. Discord would need a way to solve problems like this, so they had to have a way for users to actually prove they were who they said they were. Because Discord can't just say, all right, I trust you, bro. Because if they did that, they, well, could be sued into oblivion. So what they did is they would allow users to submit tickets where somebody would manually verify their identity via their government-supplied documentation. And that's the key detail for this story. What I just outlined is how Discord was handling ID stuff itself. And that is different to the new system that is carried out by the verification companies that basically was spurred on by the UK's Online Safety Act and similar legislation across the world. So this stuff was done by Discord's customer support teams, and those were teams that are Discord in name only. Because yeah, they're basically outsourced. Okay, so according to the threat actors speaking to Bleeping Computer, here is how things went down. They say the breach did not stem from a vulnerability in Zendesk, and it wasn't a breach of Zendesk either. Rather, it came from a compromised account belonging to a support agent. Now, that agent worked for what is called a business process outsourcing provider, a BPO. And a BPO that was used by Discord. Now, I should say there's potential for this to be untrue, but it does at the very least align with how Discord described the matter to the public already. So, as best we can tell, here's the reality of things. Discord does not handle their customer service in-house, right? And actually, almost no big companies do, especially in tech. And the reason why is fairly simple. Customer support is expensive and it is staff intensive. It's the sort of thing that traditionally is seen to only really be able to lose a company money. Obviously, I think that is absolute bollocks. Whenever I have a really good customer support experience and it's obvious a company has actually invested money in that, what does it tell me? It tells me this company actually cares about me as a customer because they invested money in my experience. That's a story for another day. So what these companies do is they outsource to other companies who will offer to do it more cheaply than could be done in-house. And often that's because they're in like Vietnam, India, Egypt, so many examples, just places with lower standards of living or lower wages. So basically it's a game of getting as many warm bodies as possible for as little money as is possible. Of course, that will likely be outsourced to AI fairly soon, or, outsourced to the other form of AI. Actually, Indians. Don't know if you know about that story, but it was pretty damn funny. Anyway, in theory, this kind of thing is also true of the ID verification companies, like the ones Discord are using in their trial in the UK and Australia. But those third-party ID companies are single-focus entities. They are entirely designed to do ID verification, and that usually means they've got strong ties to regulators and they've got bespoke tools. Now, for customer support, on the worst instance, all you need is someone cheap who can answer emails in line with a guidebook. And in a case like this, where the plan was to extort a financial ransom from Discord, that can obviously be counterproductive. If the third party doesn't have enough security, then Discord is exposed. And if individuals involved in that company are susceptible to bribes or hacks of their own, Discord is also exposed. Now, this also limits how much control there is over a policy even being followed. And we actually know this because Discord's own policies say that this should never have been able to happen. Yeah, this should be impossible because their policy states, quote, age verification. If you submit an ID for an age verification appeal, we will delete it within 60 days after the age appeal ticket is closed. Now that obviously feels like bullshit if this story is true, because when you read those words from Discord and you see the word we, you tend to think that actually means Discord themselves. Obviously, it does not. So what we've learned then is that these BPOs, these business process outsourcing companies, are usually the weakest point in any chain of security. And that's precisely because they're kind of off hands as far as the main company, in this case Discord, would be concerned. And that means that breaches of policy just will happen. Stuff will slip through the cracks. There will be bad habits that never get caught. And what this reveals is something that you really, really should know. Whenever you look at policy things like this, basically that policy is mostly relevant after it's been violated. Because ultimately, like, the test of a system is, well, you know, the system actually being tested by shit going wrong. So the key thing here is that none of this, none, removes fault from Discord. Even if they say it was an outsourcing company and, oh no, we've cancelled our contract with that company. Because Discord is responsible for vetting and reviewing that the security and the data management processes of their suppliers are actually following their own rules. Because if Discord has a policy of ID deletion and it turns out their partners weren't deleting the ID, it's their bad. Discord should be auditing that shit on the regular. And unfortunately for Discord, in this instance, they are going to have to take responsibility for this L at the worst possible time. Because there's a whole other dimension to Discord that you very well may not know about. So when I say Discord really didn't need another controversy, it's actually because, well, before the US government shutdown, the company's CEO got called before Congress. Obviously, that's ended up being delayed. But what was going on is Humam Shikani was set to appear before the US House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. And there he would have to answer questions alongside executives from Reddit, Steam, and Twitch. Now, these questions were on how they were trying to prevent extremists from using their services. And that's for fairly obvious reasons. So now Discord are going to have to deal with that, as well as the rising tide of US state legislation. Legislation that is demanding they protect children, verify IDs, and ensure that users' privacy is protected. So they need to do that. They need to rebuild trust with the public in order to accomplish all of that. And all of this is, of course, in service of their ultimate goal, at least currently, which is to do their IPO. And here's why that's awful for a lot of the powers involved, okay? So you see in a company like Discord, they start with the seed round. You know, they got Series A, Series B, Series C. They're getting all these heaps and heaps and heaps of money. Now, the whole point is eventually that the company will become private and very profitable, or perhaps sell to another company. We actually believe they tried to sell. That was like earlier on a few years ago. Or, of course, to go public. Because whenever the company goes public, well, you know, those shares are sold. And what that means is that their initial investors, and, you know, anyone else throughout all the different series of investment, they finally get their big payday. So a hell of a lot of money wants them to go public, and to go public successfully with as high a price as you can manage. Guess what? You need to not have drama like this. But unfortunately for the business people at Discord, drama like this is what they have got. But if you're here for the drama, good news. You should check out this story next. It's quite fun.